Hi dears, today we are going to study about a new kingdom, that is Protista. Okay, the last class we studied about the Monierans. We know that according to the 5 kingdom classification, there is the first kingdom we studied that Monera, then coming the Protista, then there is fungi, then plantae and animalia. So this kingdom, that is what Protista, it consists of unicellular eukaryotic organisms. Okay, these organisms which cannot be classified as plants, animals or fungus. So they are classified into a separate group, that is known as what? Protista. And kingdom Protista consists of eukaryotic unicellular organisms. Okay. And then they act as a connecting link. The protists, they act as a connecting link between the prokaryotic monierans and the multicellular eukaryotes. So it acts as a connecting link. Okay. Then they may have a cell wall. Some forms may have a cell wall. If it has a cell wall, it is made up of cellulose. And most of these protists, they are aquatic forms. They act as a connecting link and they form the 95% of the total plankton population. Planktons, which are diverse collection of organisms. These are different varieties of organisms that live in large water bodies such as oceans or seas. We can see these diverse collection of organisms. So these are different forms of organisms and they collectively known as the planktons. Okay, and in these planktons, the protist forms 95% of what these planktons. Other planktons may be including some animal forms such as cylindrids, cylindrids and bacteria. All these are also considered as what? Plankton. But the protist form the majority of planktons. Okay. Then they may have a chloroplast. Some may have a chloroplast. And in the case of nutrition, they form different forms of nutrition. That is, some are autotrophic, some are heterotrophic, then saprotrophic, and some are parasitic forms. So diverse forms of nutrition is found there. Then their cytoplasm. Their cytoplasm is always moving. Okay. So this motion is known as what? Cytoplasmic streaming, or the phenomenon is known as cyclosis. Cyclosis or cytoplasmic streaming, because the cytoplasm is always in motion. Okay, so it is known as what? Cyclosis or cytoplasmic streaming. So these are major characteristics of the kingdom Protista. And this kingdom is divided into, mainly there are 3 groups. Okay. So what are the main groups of Protista? We know that these are unicellular eukaryotic organisms. And these unicellular eukaryotic organisms, which are classified as 3 major groups. They are photosynthetic protist, then slime molds, then protozoan protist. So these are the 3 groups coming under the kingdom Protista. The photosynthetic protist, they are plant-like protist. They are otherwise known as phytoplanktons. They are included in the phytoplanktons. Then slime molds, which are fungus-like protista. Then protozoans are animal-like protists. So these are the major groups under this kingdom. So in this section we are going to study about what are these groups. Each group may have subgroups or phylum. So we have to study about what are these phylum, what are these groups. Briefly we have to know about their characters and some of the examples. So now we are going to study about the subgroups under kingdom Protista. Now let's see the photosynthetic protist. The photosynthetic protist, they are the major producers of the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, so here we are going to study the first phylum, that is known as the Chrysophyta. The group is known as Chrysophytes. This includes the diatoms and golden algae. Diatoms and golden algae are coming under this phylum what? Chrysophyta. Okay, and they have a cell wall, and their cell wall, it is known as frustule or shell. The cell wall is known as frustule or shell, and this shell, it may contain silica, and the silica, it is constructed in two overlapping halves. The shell or the cell wall, it is constructed in two overlapping halves, and this overlapping halves, it is known as theca. Okay, and these both of these halves which are fit together just like a box. See here, just like a box. Okay, so just like a box, it is fit together, and this upper half, this is the upper half, this one is lower half. The upper half, it is known as the epitheca, and the lower half may be known as hypotheca. Okay, so they have a shell and it contains silica. Okay, and it is constructed in the silica, the shell is constructed in two overlapping halves. This is known as the theca. Okay, the upper half is known as epitheca. Here the upper half is known as epitheca and the lower half is known as hypotheca. Okay, so they are fit together just like a soap box or this one. Okay, so there is this cell wall, and we know that this shell, their cell wall, their shell of the diatoms, the shell of diatoms, they do not easily decay. They do not decay easily. So that what happens is that they pile up. This shell, it may pile up at the bottom of the water bodies, maybe in the ocean or sea. Okay, and this may form big heaps. Okay, these heaps are known as diatomite or diatomaceous earth, or it is known as Kieselguhr. Okay, all these are similar. Okay, so these are what? The shell, their shell do not decay easily, and they may pile up at the bottom of the water bodies. Okay, and they may form what? Big heaps. It is known as diatomite or diatomaceous earth or Kieselguhr. Okay, then what? There are two examples. Navicula and Pinnularya are two examples of what? The Chrysophytes. So this is the first phylum coming under the photosynthetic protist. Now we may go to the next group. Now we are coming to the next phylum, that is known as Pyrophyta or dinoflagellates. Okay, the next phylum is Pyrophyta or dinoflagellates. Okay, they have a cell wall. Okay, and that cell wall has stiff cellulose plates. The cell wall may have stiff cellulose plates, and this is known as theca or lorica. Okay, lorica is the stiff cellulose plates. Okay, and they have two flagella. Okay, they have two flagella. The condition is known as heteroconate. Okay, and they exhibit the phenomenon of bioluminescence. That means they can emit light. And their food materials, they store food as starch or oil. In the marine forms it is oil, and in the freshwater forms it is starch. Okay, the Noctiluca and Gonalex are examples of what? Pyrophytes or dinoflagellates. In the case of Gonalex, they are known as the red dinoflagellates. Okay, and they undergo rapid multiplication. They undergo rapid multiplication, and they may form, and that the sea may appear red colored. Okay, that's known as what? The red tide. And this increased amount of this dinoflagellates, these red dinoflagellates, that may produce increased amount of toxins, and these toxins that may even kill the other marine organisms. Okay, so these are the main characters of what? Dinoflagellates or Pyrophyta. Okay, they have a cell wall and it has stiff cellulose plates, that is known as lorica or theca, and they have two flagella. The condition is known as heteroconate. They show bioluminescence. And in the case of red dinoflagellates, they undergo rapid multiplication and that the sea may appear red. That is known as what? Red tide. It is harmful to other marine organisms. Okay. Now we come into the next phylum, that is what? Euglenophyta or euglenoids. They do not have a cell wall. The cell wall is absent, and for the cell wall, a protein-rich layer, that is what? A pellicle. It is the outermost layer. Okay, and that makes their body very flexible. That makes the flexible. And they also have two flagella. One is short and one is long. And in the absence of light, they may behave like what? Heterotrophs. And the pigments present in these euglenoids may be similar to what? The higher plants. Okay. So the euglena and Paranema, these are the examples of what? This Euglenophyta. Okay. Now let's go to the next group. The next group, it is slime moths or the fungus-like protist. Slime moths or the fungus-like protist. They are saprotrophic. Their nutrition is saprotrophic, and they lack a true cell wall. They lack a cell wall, but their spores may have a true wall. And in them, the plasma membrane only forms the outer covering. So their outer covering is what? Plasma membrane, and they do not have a cell wall, but their spores may contain a true wall. And they do not have chlorophyll, and they show a wide range of coloration, and they grew at decaying places, decaying areas. We can see these slime moths, and they perform locomotion by using the pseudopodia. Okay, the Physarum and the Tubifera are the two examples under what? The slime moths. Okay, now we are coming to the next group, that is what? Protozoans. Okay, the word protozoa means the first animals. Okay, and they form the primitive relatives of animals. Protozoans are the primitive relatives of modern animals, and they are heterotrophs. They may be parasites or predators. Okay, and based on their locomotory organelles, there are mainly 4 phyla under the protozoans. Now let's see what are these 4 groups under the protozoans. Now let's see the subgroups under the protozoans. Okay, so on the basis of locomotory organelles, the protozoans are classified into 4 different groups. Okay, let's see what are these groups. The flagellates, then rhizopods, then sporozoans and ciliates. So these are the 4 groups based on the locomotory organelles. Okay. So what is meant by these flagellates? These are mostly they are free living. Some are parasitic, and their locomotory organelles are what? Flagella. So flagella are the locomotory organelles in the flagellates. Leishmania and trypanosoma, these are examples for what? Flagellates. So their locomotory organelles are what? Flagella. That's very important. Okay. Then rhizopods. These are amoeboid protozoans. Amoeboid protozoans, and they are mostly free living, and their locomotory organelles are known as what? Pseudopodia. Okay, pseudopodia are the locomotory organelles. They are found in marine, freshwater, and in the moist places also. We can see these rhizopods, and the examples are amoeba and entamoeba. Okay, so their locomotory organelles are what? Pseudopodia. Then in the case of sporozoans, they lack a locomotory organelle. Okay, so this is the groups of protozoans which lack the locomotory organelles, and all of these organisms coming under the sporozoans, which are what? Endoparasites. The malarial parasite is an example. Okay, the Plasmodium, then Monocystis. These are examples for what? The sporozoans. Then coming the last one, that is ciliates. These are the largest and well advanced forms of protozoans. Okay, and they show nuclear dimorphism. That means they may have more than 2 nuclei. The presence of more than 2 nuclei. That is known as what? Nuclear dimorphism. The locomotory organelles are what? The cilia. Okay, so these are the only group coming under the protozoans which have a definite cell mouth, that is cytostome, and a cell anus, that is known as cytopage. Okay, then a common example is what? The Paramecium. So these are the 4 groups and their definite characters with the examples. Now let's conclude this section. Okay, so we have studied the kingdom Protista. It is the kingdom of the unicellular eukaryotes. Okay, so this kingdom Protista, we know that it is divided into 3 subgroups are there. They are photosynthetic protist, then fungus-like protist or slime modes, then animal-like protist or the protozoans. So in the first group, that is in the photosynthetic protist, we have seen 3 subgroups are there. They are chrysophytes, then what? Dinoflagellates, then euglenoids. Okay. Then in the case of protozoans, we have seen 4 subgroups or subphyla. Okay. These are what? The flagellates, then rhizopods, then what? Sporozoans, and last one is the ciliates. Okay. So this is the, so we are stopping here. Okay, so this area is completed. The kingdom Protista is completed. Now in the next class, the next section, we will learn about the next kingdom, the kingdom of multicellular decomposers. That is what? The fungi, the kingdom fungi. So today we are going to stop. In the next class, we will study about the kingdom fungi. Okay, you may go through your textbook. Okay, and if you find any difficulty, you can contact me. So thank you. Bye bye.